With less than 2 weeks to go till the final votes are cast, intelligence officials issued a new warning about foreign interference in the 2020 election.
We have confirmed that some voter registration information has been obtained by Iran and separately by Russia. We have already seen Iran sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage President Trump.
Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe appeared to be referring to those threatening emails some Democratic swing state voters got this week, claiming to be from the white supremacist group the Proud Boys, warning recipients to, quote, vote for Trump or else. Ratcliffe, who you remember was a Republican congressman from Texas before becoming DNI in May, did not elaborate on why he thought the interference efforts were only damaging to Trump. And his former Democratic colleagues from the House Homeland Security Committee were quick to criticize, tweeting, Ratcliffe has too often politicized the intelligence community to carry water for the president. Of note, last night's press conference was on very short notice. Reporters did not get the chance to ask questions. And it came immediately after a highly anticipated speech by former President Barack Obama, who delivered a scathing criticism of Trump's time in office and personal character, bumping that out of the news cycle for a time. Unfortunately, questions about the political agendas of members of the intelligence community are far from unusual these days. So after 4 years of Trump, just how much damage has been done to the credibility of these institutions, and what will it take to fix it? I can think of no one better to answer that than a former earring-wearing, hash-smoking, communist for president voting biker from New Jersey, who joins me now. That, of course, would be former CIA Director John Brennan, who's out with a new memoir, Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and Abroad. Director Brennan, pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Jim. Good to be here with you.
Now, considering that all those things are true, would you have hired you back in 1977?
Well, I think the CIA is looking for people who are able to assimilate into various societies and cultures, and wants people who not only may have the academic background and credentials, but also have some street smarts. So, yeah, I like to think that I was the type of person they were looking for back in 1980.
You start the book with your first meeting with President-elect Trump. We all know something of the meeting with at Trump Tower, where you and your colleagues are advising him about Russian interference. Your major takeaway was about the questions that Trump asked at that time. What were they, and why did those stick with you?
Well, what he was saying was it could have been China. It could have been China. Several times during the briefing, he interrupted us. He was trying to deflect attention away from Russia. And unlike any of the other presidents that I had briefed numerous times previously, he didn't really show any intellectual curiosity about what it was that we knew about Russia. He seemed more interested in trying to find out how we knew it. And I was very concerned that based on my briefings of foreign intelligence services, when they would seek to gain information about the sources of U.S. intelligence information, I was concerned that Donald Trump was looking for that same information related to our sources.
You know, you do a hell of a bill of particulars against Donald Trump from his first full day in office before the memorial wall at the CIA, which commemorates the lives lost of more than 100 CIA employees, to this incredible moment in Helsinki in 2018. Here's Donald Trump.
I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
You said those statements by the president at the time were treasonous, that he was in the pocket of Putin. I've heard everything from former acting director McCabe saying he's a Russian asset, others he's a Manchurian candidate, others that he's just enamored of autocrats. What do you say? Why is he in the pocket of Putin, to quote you?
Well, it's very puzzling as to why he's had this very obsequious attitude and behavior toward Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump knows what his past involves, and whether or not he's trying to hide something from his financial, business, commercial dealings with Russia, I don't know. But it's clear that there's something about Putin that he fears. And when he stood on that stage in Helsinki and basically betrayed the women and men of the intelligence community and siding with Vladimir Putin, saying that he didn't see any reason why Russia interfered in the election, despite the consensus of U.S. intelligence that they did. It made me made my blood boil, quite frankly, and made me wonder, what is it that he is so fearful about with Vladimir Putin that he goes to such lengths?
Do you know the answer to your own question and just can't tell us, or do you not know the answer to that question?
I don't know the full answer to the question about what he fears and what the Russians may have on Donald Trump. I know that Donald Trump, who is a businessman, is very transactional, and he has engaged in a number of activities with foreign countries as a way to just advance his own political interests and maybe his own personal financial interests. Currently, since he still has financial interests in Trump Organization, as well as in his future. So the financial strings of Donald Trump's commercial business past were never pulled by Robert Mueller and his investigative team. And it's been my experience as an intelligence officer that when you pull those financial strings, whether you're looking for terrorists or proliferators or organized crime, you find out a lot more. And I do think Donald Trump is hiding a lot, which is why he hasn't revealed his tax returns.
Director Brennan, months before, maybe a half year before you briefed President-elect Trump, you also briefed your boss, President Obama, in the summer of that year about your fears about Russian interference. That President Obama did not react strongly or retaliate. It seems to me, had he done that, there might have been a different outcome come November. Why didn't he?
Well, what could he have done at that point? He was the head of the Democratic Party as the president of the United States. His former Secretary of State was running for the presidency. And so he didn't want to do anything that was either going to create the perception or the reality that he was going to be tilting the election in favor of Hillary Clinton. So I confronted my Russian counterparts. President Obama confronted Putin. We warned him against taking these actions. Did some of our words of warning dissuade them from actually doing something on the technical front? Maybe, but they did continue their influence operations that I think swayed a fair number of votes.
You think, no doubt, the president's done great damage to the intelligence community, calling it the deep state. Do you think you've done damage to the intelligence community? It is not common for a former director of the CIA after his time to be as outspoken about an incumbent president as you have been. Do you have any concerns about the damage you might do to the community you spent your life serving?
Well, it's because I've spent my life serving that community and our national security interests that I've spoken out so stridently against Donald Trump, who I think has damaged our national security interests. And I'm not alone. When you look at former directors such as Mike Hayden, Director of National Intelligence Jim Clapper, Leon Panetta, and others, an increasing number of former senior military officers who've come out denouncing what Donald Trump has done, especially his denigration of those great professionals at CIA, FBI, and other institutions. And so I'm hoping I'm not doing any damage, but I am going to speak out as long as Donald Trump continues to trample the tenets of our democracy.
You speak very warmly of Vice President Biden and your working relationship with him, obviously, when you were serving President Obama. What is it that draws you to him? You say he was wrong in his advocacy for a withdrawal from Iraq. I think it was in 2011. He was wrong in terms of his strategic embrace of a particular strategy, I should say, vis-a-vis Osama bin Laden. What is it that recommends Joe Biden to you, Director?
Well, he is a very honest individual. He has a lot of experience. And although I disagree with some of his policy decisions, he took the job very, very seriously. And one of the hallmarks of Joe Biden's track record has been to try to unite us as a country. He is somebody who I think has incurred a fair amount of criticism because he reached across the aisle to his Republican colleagues when he was in the Senate. And I do believe at a time of such polarization in this country, we need to have somebody who's going to help unite us as opposed to further divide us, which is what Donald Trump has done.
If you were advising him prior to last night's final debate, what are two, and national security, as you know, is one of the 6 topics, what are 2 of the 3 of the issues you think he should challenge the president on?
Well, I think one is on Trump's attitude and behavior toward Mr. Putin. Secondly, I think the way that Donald Trump has failed to strengthen the alliances and partnerships around the globe that has made the United States so strong. And I think one of the things that Vice President Biden is going to do when he is elected is bring the United States back onto that global stage, assume the leadership role that I think we need to play, whether it's in the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and then return to some of these agreements that we once were a part of, such as the Paris Climate Accords and others, to demonstrate that we are going to follow our word in the future and not renege on agreements that we sign on to.
Director, you, in a chapter called Falling Short, you're pretty honest about regrets you have about not challenging what I believe is called technically rendition, detention, and interrogation program. Most of us call it enhanced interrogation. Some of us call it torture. I know you do not, for a variety of reasons. That you didn't challenge your superiors, George Tenet and others, more in the interrogation of Abu Zubaydah right after 9/11. When I read that, I was thinking about people like Jim Mattis and Tillerson, former Secretary of State Tillerson, McMaster. They haven't expressed regret for what they did or didn't say to the President of the United States when they served him, but they've been very critical of him after the fact. Do you believe in an environment like this that government servants have an obligation not only to challenge their leader, but if it's an issue of great importance to the American people, that they let us know at the time that it matters what's going on?
Yes, I think every senior government official has to reckon with his conscience in terms of whether or not they're going to abide by direction, guidance from their superiors, and whether or not that comports with their understanding of what their legal authorities are, number one, and what is moral and ethical and principled to carry out. And so I do regret that I didn't speak out more forcefully at the time about that program. And I vowed never to stay silent again. And some people that you mentioned are true patriots and have dedicated their lives to this country. John Kelly, Master, others, Jim Mattis, all people who I know and work with. And I did respect them because they were trying to do what they could to, I think, keep our national security on track and to prevent Donald Trump from doing more damage. They have to, tell themselves what it was that they did, why they did it, and make some decisions about whether or not they have regrets.
So 44 years after you voted for Gus Hall, do you have any better opinion of Jimmy Carter or no?
I was a 21-year-old. It was my first vote in the presidential election. I didn't know who I was going to vote for. I just was already tired of partisan politics. And so when I went into the voting booth and I saw Gus Hall, the Communist Party candidate, it was a protest vote. I flipped that lever. And no, I have not voted ever again for a communist. And I would hope that members of both political parties are going to rise above partisanship and really try to do what's in the best interest of this country.
John Brennan, good to meet you. Your book is terrific. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
The book again is Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and Abroad.